Hello everybody, I'm Max. In this video, I'll be doing something a bit different. I'll be showing you exactly how much money I make from the mobile games I've published over the last few years. But first, let me explain how I got into making video games in the first place. If you're not interested in this and you just want to see how much money I'm making, you can go ahead and jump to the second half of this video where I break down the numbers. However, if you want to know a bit about the work that goes into making a game and how hard it is to make it grow, then I suggest you keep watching. Let's go back to the beginning. I was born on a dark October night. Oh wait, not that far back. I guess it all started when I was a child. I loved playing video games, and when I grew up, I knew that I wanted to work making video games. When I turned 13 years old, I began learning how to code on my own with a program called Game Maker. With the years, I started to drift away from making games, but I learned many other programming languages. After finishing high school, becoming a software engineer seemed like the only viable career option for me, so I got a degree in computer science. I've gained a lot of programming experience since I started learning back at the age of 13, so when I finally decided to get serious about making games, I already had the knowledge I needed. I'm also the type of person who needs to always be doing something. In my free time, I'm always working on something, whether that be a project that I find interesting or a skill that I want to develop. A little over 3 years ago, I found myself looking for a new project to work on. I knew that I wanted to create something that would generate passive income for me once I finished it, and since I had always wanted to make video games, I decided to give it a shot. I decided that I would be making mobile games mainly for two reasons. The first is that I thought it would be easier to make mobile games than PC or console. The second reason is that I thought it would be easier to get people to install it. After all, I'm releasing it for free, and there's millions of Android users. I thought I would just upload the game and the downloads would come flushing in. That was not the case. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we have to talk about how long it takes to actually make a game. When making a game, you don't usually start completely from scratch. You're using a program that is called a game engine that basically comes with a lot of things set up like physics, collisions, and a lot of other functionality that would take forever to program if you had to do it from scratch. Since I wanted to release a game as soon as possible, I decided to use Game Maker Studio because I already knew how to use it from when I was a teenager learning to code, and I also had a license of the program, so I didn't have to spend any money up front. For my first game, I chose to do something simple and create my very own version of Breakout. I remember the exact date that I started making my first game. It was the 12th of September of 2017. A project I thought would take me a couple of weeks to complete ended up taking me months. After exactly 3 months of hard work, the game was finally in a state that was ready to be released. It had 20 levels, 3 power-ups, and a very simple menu. It still wasn't complete by any means, but it was a minimum viable product that I could release to start seeing how users responded. On the 12th of December of 2017, my game went live and I spammed it out to all of my friends and family. The downloads were starting to slowly come in. By the end of the month, I had made $2.74. It was the start of my journey. Since then, I have released another 3 mobile games and abandoned a few more along the way. Out of the 4 games that I have actually released, my first game is the only one that has achieved any measurable level of success. Despite being just a simple breakout game, it's my most successful game to date by far. Over the last 3 years, it has received more than 50,000 downloads. But how does this translate into income? Well, that depends. There's a lot of ways to make money with a mobile game. The simplest way would be to charge a certain amount upfront to buy the game. I'm not a big fan of this method for mobile games because it limits your reach, especially when nobody knows about your game. Very few people would be willing to pay for it, so it would be very difficult to gain traction at the start. Another option, which is probably the most widely used today, is having in-app purchases, which is basically selling some in-game item to enhance your gameplay experience. This is by far the most lucrative of all of the options. It's used by all of the biggest mobile games, from Candy Crush to Clash Royale and everything in between. The option I ended up going with, however, is having ads in the game, since it's easy to add them in between levels and you can still offer the game for free. In this case, what's important isn't how many downloads you get, but rather the number of active installs that you have, since you don't get paid per install, but rather for every ad that gets shown. If someone downloads your game but never opens it, you won't get paid anything. It's the same as if they had never installed the game in the first place. People need to be using your game in order to get ads shown to them. So instead of the 50,000 downloads, what we should be more interested in is the number of active installs. Active installs are the number of users who are actually opening and playing the game. Currently, my game has around 5,000 active installs. This means that out of those 50,000 people that downloaded my game, there are only about 5,000 that are still actually playing it. So now that we know what we're actually getting paid for, we can go see how much money we're earning. For that, we're going to go to AdMob, which is the ad provider that I use. Here we can see a bunch of statistics, but for this video we're only interested in the estimated earnings. First, let's select the date range to view the data from all time. AdMob pays out once a month, so let's group the data by month. Well, even before grouping by month, we can see a couple of big spikes here and here. It definitely takes some time to gain traction, but once you do, it's something that stays pretty consistent. If we switch over to a monthly view, we can see exactly how much I made for each month since I started. This first month is when I released the first game, and as you can see, I made $2.74. This is the following month, and I made a little over $5.67. And then the third month, I made $7.47. Now, you have to keep in mind that you need a minimum of $100 in your account before you get paid anything, which means that for the first 6 months of the game being released, I didn't get paid. On top of that, you have to add the 3 months of work that went into developing the game and the time that I was putting in fixing bugs and updating the game after it was released. This is definitely not a way to get rich quick, but I still consider that all that work ended up paying off. Once I got to the first big spike in downloads, I've been getting paid somewhere between $150 to $300 consistently every month. If we add up how much I earned each month, the total I've made over the last 3 years amounts to more than $5,300, and that number will only keep increasing. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you learned something from it and enjoyed it. I know that these numbers aren't incredible, it's not millions of dollars, but I just thought I'd share my personal experience with you. Since not everyone is making games and talking about how much they're making, I thought some of you might find it interesting. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video and if there are any topics you'd like me to discuss. Also, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, remember to subscribe and hit the bell. I'll see you next week. Bye!